Okay, we are live.
All right. Good evening. It is Monday, July 27th. It is 5:30 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Law and Ordinance Committee. With me on Zoom is Mr. Siebert and Mr. Phillips, and we're here for three things. Two of them, Mr. Titterington, can we cover at the same time and then vote on separately?
Sure, but let's redirect to the correct committee. We're on the Finance Committee, not Law and Ordinance.
Sorry.
You're flashing back to last year. The Finance Committee. Yes, we have the first two items as separate items, but they relate to a new program that Council earlier in the year approved in concept, and that is the Employee Creation Incentive Program. We have two projects. As you'll recall, with the creation of that program, you created two, I guess, facets of the program. One that incentivizes relocations in Detroit, and one that incentivizes expansions of our current businesses. So the first one is a project that comes to us from Troy Laminating and Coating Incorporated. They are a business that has been here in Troy for over 100 years. They are a French company owned by Chargeurs. They are wanting to expand their facility out on Union Street and renovate 56,000 square feet, a building that's across their main facility that has sat vacant for at least 2 decades, if not longer. They are interested in beginning operations on a global scale of PPE, personal protective equipment, namely surgical and medical masks, not only in response to the current virus issues, but something that they're looking at as a long-term business strategy to expand their product line. Troy would be the only non-French operation that Chargeurs would have. So that's a significant plus for us. They would more than double their employment. Their investment targets in terms of payroll are over 2.7 million, I believe. Their capital expenses are lower than our typical threshold or the benchmarks. However, they do not account for a significant reinvestment in that renovation, and the fact that they are reutilizing a facility that, again, has sat vacant for a couple of decades, if not longer. So we strongly recommend that the committee recommend to council that this project be approved as an emergency measure so that they can get the incentive in place and start to do all the things that they need to do, not only to finish the project, but also then finalize the documentation to get ready for the incentive to start. That is the first project. Anybody has any questions about that?
Yes, sir.
If not, we've been super secretive for too many months about a project that was code named, not our code name, but the state of Ohio code names every project that comes to us. This project has been affectionately known as Project Minor. I have no idea why they called it that. I don't know if they just randomly picked the name. Today, the state approved all of their incentives for the company. And it was announced, as you saw earlier today, that Pella is purchasing the Avenue building, doing some significant renovations, and will employ at least 428 jobs over the next 5 years. Now, within the 4-year target range, they will exceed the $15 million payroll that is a general guideline of our ESIP program, ESIP incentive. Let me see, I've got the project. The capital investment is estimated to be nearly $11 million in renovating and reusing that building and that property. We are recommending the maximum incentive for this program or for this project. And again, we are strongly recommending that council approve this as an emergency measure.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Mr. Phillips, Mr. Siebert?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about the Troy laminating? You want to move forward with it on emergency?
As staff is,
Go ahead,
Okay.
Bobby.
as staff is recommending, yes.
Okay. Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. These are big wins for the city.
Absolutely. How about for Pella window? Same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Phillips. All right, let's move forward with those. There's one more thing, Mr. Titterington. We're moving funds back around.
Yes, this was something that, thank you, Mr. Graves. I do want to point out though that Joseph was here in the audience in case you had any, over here at City Hall, in case you had any questions about that. Of course,
Thank you, gentlemen.
This is a great example of a lot of work that was done through our partnership, and as well as the Dayton Development Coalition, many meetings with Pella, their representatives, 3 or 4 trips here back and forth to Troy, 5 trips. It was delayed significantly by the virus issues and the inability for the state to meet, for them to come out. But they were very committed to Troy, I think, early on. And so it was just a matter of getting through everything. So I did want to note that. All right, where's my next thing? Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you all.
So yeah, back in 2015, we did some advance funding between the general fund and the capital investment fund, Fund 441. I apologize, I am looking for there it is. Okay, got it. In the amount of $336,000. Reconstructing that in my mind, what we did is that we did an interfund transfer only. It was advanced funding from general fund to the 441 to keep the capital reconstruction project going on and renovations at Treasure Island and the Marina building. It was an advance, much like we do anytime we ultimately will borrow money through bond financing, where the bond financing then repays the advance expenses. And in this case, the bond financing proceeds, because it included several different projects that were ultimately distributed, including water and sewer, I believe. The amount was not moved back from 441 to the general fund. Now, these are all, whether it's 101 or Fund 101 or Fund 441, they are all general fund monies. This is not additional spending over and above what was authorized by council in 2015. These were bond financing proceeds that really were just moved back to be identified and accounted for in the correct fund. During a routine audit, our annual audit, they pulled these particular transactions and asked that Mr. Frigge have the council move that money back, which takes the action that we are asking you to do. Again, it is not any additional funding, expenses, spending. It is just accounting in the right funds, the right amounts in the right funds on the books.
What's the difference between this and a reappropriation?
Ideally, we would have done a reappropriation back in probably 2016, but I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but there may have been a time lag when we actually borrowed the money and did the bond financing and then didn't return it to the general fund, and so it never got caught in a reappropriation.
Okay, and this is an emergency legislation?
I don't see it as emergency resolution. No,
It's not on here. I was just curious about that.
correct.
Mr. Sievert, Mr. Phillips, you got questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I think they've been answered.
Mr. Tierrington, you've called this a couple of different names, but I just want to make sure that it's the Capital Improvement Fund that it is going back into it's coming from the Capital Improvement Fund back into the general fund. Is that correct?
Correct. Fund 441.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, what is your pleasure, gentlemen?
Move forward.
Forward.
All right, same thing.
Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Chair.
else to come before finance?
No, sir.
All right, we are adjourned.
Moving right into law and ordinance.
Thank you. I'm chairman of this committee. It would be myself, Mr. Schweizer, and Miss Snee. Is she here?
She is on vacation, so it's just the two of you.
Okay. We have two issues to come before council today. One is to provide the recommendation to council regarding the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission to approve the final plat and dedication of right-of-way for the Fox Harbor subdivision, section 7. I think that is on West Main Street, sort of out by Culver's. Is that where we're at, Patrick?
Basically, yes. It's a section that's actually off of West Main Street. It involves a new cul-de-sac, Edwards Circle. But yes, in that general area, it's just west of King's Chapel.
And there's been houses being built there for at least the last 20 years, I think. So
This is section 7, so there have been 6 sections that have already been built. This is the final plat approval that needs to go to council. It was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission. It is just less than 4 acres. There will be 11 building lots. The right-of-way that would be dedicated, again, is the cul-de-sac Edwards Circle. It's zoned R4, so it's compatible with the rest of the subdivision. And we are not asking for emergency legislation.
is anybody on the committee? Mr. Schweizer, do you have any comments?
We've already had the public hearing on this. Did there need to be a public hearing on this?
It's not zoning.
This is not a zoning issue, so there are no hearings related to it.
I have nothing else.
Any other members of council that are on Zoom with us today have any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Schweizer, what's your pleasure?
Let's move forward with it. Let's advance it to
I
council.
agree, Mr. Tiddington. Let's move forward.
Thank you, sir.
The second issue would be to provide a recommendation to council regarding the annexation petition filed for 2.446 acres from Staunton Township, city parcel at Rutherford Drive annexation. Statement to be considered, the statement of municipal services to be provided to the area proposed for annexation, statement of the buffering related to incompatible uses, and acceptance of the annexation. Consideration of emergency legislation as requested, as the city is required to provide the above to the county within 20 days of the filing of the annexation with the county, which was done on July 23rd. We all have memos about that, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Tiddington to sort of summarize what we're doing with that.
Sure. This is a parcel that's just adjacent to the golf course. It is a parcel that we have long owned, but for some reason was never annexed in. It's fairly routine. We're asking for a type 2 expedited annexation. And we are required to follow the same procedures, which will result in the 3 pieces of legislation, statement of municipal services, the buffering, and consenting to the application.
Do we know any reason why Staunton Township would be opposed to it?
I don't know that they have any choice because it is a type 2 expedited.
Okay. But it's already kind of been perceived as our property anyways.
Correct. It always has been, and it's been used that way too.
Mr. Schweizer, do you have any further questions on that?
Do we have to send out notices on this, or is that just with the rezoning?
Grant would take care of that.
Yeah, we are required to, and Mr. Kerber will be doing the notifications that are required.
Okay. No, I have nothing else, Mr. Seaver.
Any other members of council that are on Zoom today wish to comment on the annexation of the Rutherford Road property? Drive, I guess, Rutherford Drive property.
Mr. Schilling has a question. Mr. Seaver, Mr. Schilling has a question.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes, is this property would be located east of the driving range? Is that my understanding?
I'm sorry, we are
I don't think so.
east of the, let me see.
Yeah, in other words,
Yeah,
the
it would
driving
be
range
east,
runs down
correct,
Rutherford
yes.
Drive, and I'm
It's
thinking
it's right behind the driving range is what it is. So yes, it's east of the driving range.
east of the driving range. Okay, that's great. Okay, that's perfect.
Are there any improvements on it right now?
No, I mean, it's green space, so I think it's right behind the driving range. We may actually have it as part of the driving range. I'm not sure where the lines are. But I mean, it's always been used by us either as the driving range or just open green space.
Anybody else, Mr. Schilling, any further questions?
No, that answered where I thought it was. Yes.
Anybody else, members of council, have any further commentary on this? Seeing none, Mr. Schweizer, what is your pleasure?
I agree with moving forward on emergency legislation for this.
And I have no objection to that as well, Mr. Tiddington. I think that's appropriate.
Correct. Well, we have to do the fact that it's an expedited, and to meet the timeframes, it has to be emergency.
Yes, we'll agree. The committee would suggest we go forward and vote on that on Monday.
Okay.
Anything else coming before Law and Ordinance?
No, sir.
No.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good week.